Hello and welcome to Build-a-Kek, the series where we invite players in the community to take on wacky deck building challenges every week. Coming up on this week's episode. As always, we start with the theme, randomly selected from a list of 100. So this week's theme is Transform and Roll Out. Essentially, it's very simple. Players simply have to play 3 copies of Transmodify, Downbeat, and Generation Shift within the decks, and find a strategy that focuses on effects that sort of work with these cards, and there are other cards of similar nature that could definitely be included as well if you want to make it even more thematic than this, but really this is more of a strategic theme this week, just seeing what can be done with these 3 cards being an important part of your deck. Without further ado, on to the games. Alright, so kicking things off between Lewis and Bubble Blue, we're actually going to be giving you 2 games for the price of 1 here, because this is a classic example of 2 decks working really well in their player's first turn. So on Lewis's side we have a bunch of zombies, nothing yet seen from Bubble Blue, so he's going to bring out the Solitaire for the classic Omega players, most likely. So he goes for the Unizombie, sending the Mizuki, and then resolves the Desires. Just wanted to get that Unizombie target out of the deck. There's no Ash Blossom coming down. It draws into Soul Charge. That's going to be huge. So sends Kozuki, and then Soul Charges for 1, 2, and 3. Pretty nice. But he has lost almost half his life points here. Sends Mizuki with the Gozuki. That's going to get him another summon. And then he brings out the Sucker. So that gets him a draw if he summons a zombie, which he has done. So he draws into Monster Reborn. So all the extenders coming out here. Makes the first Omega. Uses the Gozuki for the summon of another Unizombie, and then pumps up the level in order to make an Omega, taking a card out of the opponent's hand. And from Bubble Blue, we see ninjas, so this could be pretty interesting. Then Monster Reborn into Zombie Master, ditching Fraulein to bring back Unizombie, and that is a Synchro 7. So Dawn Dragster, so he's got Negate and removing 2 cards. I don't know if Bubble Blue is going to be able to play through this. Returns the Mizuki in the standby phase, and Bubble Blue's just going to accept there that he can't play through that board. Losing 2 cards plus the Negate as well, that's just too much. So we're going to see Bubble Blue kicking this game off. Summon a Monk into using the Overdone Burial into, what's he going to bring out? So Hanzo here. So when Hanzo is special summoned, you get to add a ninja. So adds the Jogan, reveals the Notebook to special summon the Jogan, and that is 2 warriors, which means he can make an Isolde. Isolde can then add a monster on summon, so it adds a Kargan. Now remember, Kargan can't be summoned or have its monster effect used, but it can be played in the scales. So sending 4 in order to bring out Hanzo, get another search for Jogan. There's no once per turn, or there's no limiting hard once per turn on Hanzo. Pendulum summoning 3 for another Hanzo effect, and we have a Getsuga here, which can change itself to defense position to summon 2 ninjas from the grave. So he makes 2 into a Goblin, and then makes a Firewall next to it. He's not using the effect of the Goblin there. And then he's going to go ahead and use the Getsuga, but there's a Ghost Bell, so he can't bring out 2 ninjas from the graveyard with this Getsuga, unfortunately. And we shut down there. It doesn't even change to defense. And then banishes 2 for a Blade. And then the Goblin goes into Mermaid, pitching Blade, get the Ibli, and then get a draw off there. So very typical stuff here. Those 2 go into the second Goblin, pitching Notebook to pitching Notebook for the extra summon, and then specials the Golden Ninja of the Firewall. Adds back the Hanzo and the Getsuga from the Firewall there, and then brings out the Hanzo with the normal summon to add a Notebook. And then you can use Golden Ninja, so he gets rid of the duplication to summon another ninja from his deck, brings out another Golden Ninja, and then he has a Notebook here. I think he's just going to place it onto the field. Yep. Turns those essentially 3 link materials into an Underclock here, so that's pretty unusual. but triggers the Firewall to bring out an Ancient Cloak, which means if he gets rid of that, he's going to get to search for the Disrupt. So those two go into Cerberus. He can then banish the Cloak in order to add any Phantom Knights card and goes for the Fogblade. So he then pitches that with the second Ninja to bring out Shingetsu, and this, look at this is 4 level 4 warrior monsters. So you know what it is? It's gonna be Rongaminiad, which cannot be destroyed by battle, gains 1500, unaffected by other card effects, and your opponent cannot normal or special summon monsters. That is huge. Notebook gets rid of the Getsuga and sets Alchemy, which is essentially, it's kind of like a trade-in, essentially, what we've just seen there. It's just trading 2 for 2 after that dig through the deck. Lewis is going to have a hard time playing through this, so he's got Twisters for the Fogblade and the Kargan there, but he's just going to have to set the Goblin Zombie because he can't play through this Rongo. It will lose material in the end phase, so now Lewis is going to be able to start summoning stuff. But Bubble Blue adding the Blade there, turning those two into a Unicorn, which will get rid of the set card. I don't think he went for the draw there. Oh no, he did go for the draw, but he put Unicorn as Chainlink 1, Firewall as Chainlink 2. Okay, so summons out the Butterspy, and then goes for Griffin, which will let him set 1, so he sets the Fogblade so that he has an interrupt, and he gets the draw there too. Then he can attack him for 5,000, so dealing some hefty damage here. Lewis draws into Goblin Zombie, and he's really going to struggle because he can only activate effects that he puts here, but he's also got that Fogblade to deal with. So with his hand he has the option to make a Black Rose, but as soon as he makes the Black Rose it will be hit by Fogblade. It will be able to activate of course, but it'll still be hit by that Fogblade, which means that he will just be trapped with a single monster on board. So instead he goes for the Phoenix to force out the Fogblade, but he has to discard that zombie. And that's really going to limit how much options he has, because he can summon the Unizombie, but now he can't send something with it because it's not pointed to. So he's just going to scoop there, and Bubble Blue will take the second game from this. Essentially what we're calling game 1. So if you want to vote for this game, if you think that either of these two decks showed off something that's really thematic and definitely worth watching, or you think you'd be interested in taking part and using this deck in the future, then drop a comment in the comment section, vote for game 1, and yeah, we'll move on to the decks. So getting a look at Lewis's deck here, you can very much see it's a zombie-oriented strategy. So the zombie hand traps, and then a bunch of the level 4 zombies too, and the one Fraulein there for the level 5 target. So basically this allows you to do a lot of funky ways to make Omega, essentially. You can just constantly change up your level 4s into level 3, like into the Unizombie, and then use the Unizombie to Semazuki, get the revive, that kind of thing with the downbeat. Or you can transmodify to go the other way, you know, use the Unizombie, bump it up a level with the transmodify, get into your level 4s. But the only issue with that, of course, is that if you have like your Unizombie and change it to level 4, you're going to have to go into the Fraulein, but then you could probably have sent the Mizuki so you can bring back the Unizombie, make the Fraulein and the Unizombie into an Omega. So yeah, there's quite a lot of cool synergy that this zombie strategy actually has with the Transmodified Downbeat and Generation Shift setup here. So looking at Jacob's list here, you can see that we've got the Butterspy. So it's obviously a 60 card list, again reducing the chances of drawing the sort of forced cards for this week, but they still tie into the deck very well. Plus it reduces the chances of you having to draw into any of your equipped spells that we saw come out with the Isolde, because you do want to be summoning a level 3 or a level 4 of it so that you can get your Transmodifies and Downbeats to work well for you. So yeah, we've got the ninja focus strategy with a bunch of the Phantom Knights, plus just some extra warrior names to summon out. The deck can make like Rongaminiads, which is huge, but generally it just has the option to sort of link spam via the effect of the Getsuga there that we saw, which is really nice as an option, and the fact that the ninja cards have this sort of Hanzo Unlimited searching, plus that notebook, which you can turn into a trade-in just to dig through your deck for your power cards, seems really nice. Okay, so here we have Dunko Seka versus Lewis. Lewis returning into this episode again, and in Duncan's hand we can see he's definitely got a Fire Fist based deck, but it's also got this Garunix here, which could play out really well with the combination of the theme. So Leopard going into Tensu, because he's already got the Tenki and the Spirit, so Spirit brings back the Leopard, and then this allows him to make Horse Prince. The usual Rooster plays that we saw from when Fire Fist was especially popular. And then he gets that extra search for another spirit there too, and he can rotate out the Tenki into a Tenken here, which during main phase 1 makes his monster, its effects are negated and it's unaffected by the effects of other cards. So that's pretty nice. So Dark Hole, he's going to protect one of his monsters here, and he protects the Rooster. Unizombie on the other side sending Mizuki, and then down comes Transmodify.
Autobots, transform and roll out!
Transforming his Unizombie, which had just leveled up into a Vampire Fraulein. From there, he banishes Mizuki to get back the Unizombie. He's not going to go for the effect, he's going to use the Fraulein to attack into the Rooster here. And that will get the effect off after Lewis takes some damage. Which means that it will take... So he's taking the Horse Prince here. I don't think he's realised that this can't attack, because he has used the effect of Unizombie. So at this point, when he realises, he's just going to switch it out for the Rooster, because it's more important to take the Rooster, and I think both players are fine with that going on. So he turns those two into the Omega. So disrupts there, and he can return the Mizuki. But just drawn into Monster Reborn here for Duncan. So Bear comes out on the normal summon of the Tensu, and it then uses that to pop the Rooster so that he has access to it again with the extra normal summon of the Spirit, bringing back the Rooster. Effect to search a Spirit again, so he's just going to have infinite looping ability with this. Sets the Monster Reborn so it doesn't get Omega'd away, and turns the Tengen into a Yoko. What does this do? It lets him destroy a face-up card that your opponent controls. So he attempts to hit the Omega in order to bait it out, so he knows what he's going to be playing with, and that's going to take Garunix out of his hand. So those two go into Horse Prince, which means he's going to have another Rooster ability. Instead he's going to go for the Raven, who's already used the Rooster. So if this is sent from the field to the grave, he can set a Fire Formation spell from the deck. So turns those two into Doolittle Chimera, and that means that he's going to get the Raven effect for a Tenki here. Monster Reborn here for the Raven again, and then Tenki searching Wolfbark. He has used a normal summon already, so he's going into Goblin, pitching the Ceto. And then Ceto, I believe, is the thing that sets this one. Banish 7. Oh no, maybe it's not the Ceto that sets that. So it brings out the Wolfbark and the Bear here. And then he can attack in to do some serious damage. So 53 total from those guys. Extra 200 more from the two field spells. Continuous spells even. And then he makes a Dweller. But there is still that Omega, which is much bigger than anything currently on Duncan's field. So Gozuki comes out, sending Mizuki, and then obviously there's a Dweller in play, so he's just going to attack over it so that it's not an issue for next turn, because currently Lewis's monsters just are significantly bigger at the moment. But he gets back the Bear with the Chimera. He can then normal summon it, which means that he can essentially pop anything. So he targets the Omega in order to bait it out. Takes away the Garunix here, and then he has the Tenki, so he gets another Bear which won't be able to disappear. Attacks into Gozuki there, and uses the Bear effect to set one, so sets the Tensu. And then Gozuki's effect brings out a Mizuki, so he's got some protection here. But the Tensu means that there's going to be an extra normal summon, so that's the Bear, and two Bears make the Cardinal, which spins to, I believe. Detach 2, target 2 fire cards in your grave and or face up on your side of the field, and 2 cards in your opponent's graveyard. Or face up. Okay, so yeah, so he gets to spin cards from the opponent's and from his own graveyard, which can be pretty huge actually, given that Lewis's deck is very much grave oriented. But back comes the Omega again, with that Garunix re-added. And the Omega is still really bigger than anything on Duncan's board still. Monster Reborn for the Gozuki there. and then using Mezuki for the Unizombie. But he's attacking him with his monsters without having used the effect of the Unizombie, so that he can get off the attack with the Omega there. Then he's going for the Vampire Sucker here, using the Goblin to add a Mezuki, I believe, and the Unizombie pitching the Mezuki, and then he gets the extra summon with the zombie and the draw off the Vampire Sucker, so he can make another Omega. This is pretty huge, and Lewis is going to take the game there with the double Omega and the Vampire Sucker, putting in a lot of work, plus the ability to just constantly reuse stuff from his graveyard. Even though he certainly looked like he was in a losing position at a few points in the game, there was just never a board created by Duncan that was big enough to hold out and keep Lewis out of the game. So here's Duncan's Fire Fist list. You can see that it's a 60 card list, which is pretty interesting, so that does reduce the chances of you having to draw into your 9 specified cards, but he's playing an interesting tech, which is he's using the Fire Fist cards with Onslaught of the Fire Kings, I believe it's called, which allows him to sort of go through the Raven, and then you can just sort of work your way from there into all of your other cards, just establishing a really strong turn 1 board, because you can just get yourself so much access to all of the fire formation spells and traps, which is really cool to see, especially given that we haven't seen Fire Fist in a competitive scene for a long time, so seeing them come up in this series as a potential option is really cool. Alright, so for the third game in this episode, we are looking at Bubble Blue versus Dunko Sekka. Just like any good YA novel, we have a love triangle going on here with our 3 players all playing off against each other. So this is actually Duncan's second deck. He actually made 4 decks for this theme. So this is a Burning Abyss deck, it looks like. So going straight for the Dante, he has the Silent Boots, which he can turn into something bigger with Transmodify, transforming it into Armageddonite. That's actually pretty cool. He has so many dark level 3s that he can just rotate out with. So then sending the, we have Sent Farfa, Mirage, Infernity Barrier, and the Libic sent before that. Pretty interesting, actually. Obviously the Farfa not doing anything, the Phantom Knights adding that Fog Blade so he has a Disrupt. He's got the Scarm here. I don't know if he got rid of... there's no Scarm that's gone already, so interesting deck here that we're looking at. Infernities with BA, and the Phantom Knights too. So Bubble Blue has got to play through the Fog Blade here. Goes with a Hanzo, adding the Notebook, and then he has the Notebook which he pitches. So this is the trade-in effect kind of thing that we saw beforehand, trading 2 cards for 2 cards essentially, but one of them got searched out, then Downbeat turning that into an Ancient Cloak, so both players using the Phantom Knights in this one, and then he goes through with the Transmodify, so Downbeat and Transmodify both played, going from Hanzo to Phantom Knight to Hanzo, and that's going to get him a search off there because it was special summoned. So now he has the Scales, just like before, bringing out the Upstart, then pitching the Fog Blade in order to summon out another ninja from the deck. This is a Hanzo. Hanzo adds the Gentetsu. Getsuga, that's it, Getsuga. So if he can bring this out, he's going to be able to pull off some major plays here. So Isolde brought out, adding a Junk Forward, which obviously he's not going to be able to do very much with at this point. And then he's using the Fog Blade to revive the Ancient Cloak. Gets him another material available. And this Hanzo is bigger, I believe, because this Ancient Cloak, yeah, gains 800, so this is currently on 26, able to beat over that Dante. And the Scale apparently as well. If your Ninja Monster attacks defense position, inflict piercing damage. Plus, I don't think this does anything to it, does it? You can make that monster gain 1000 attack until the end of the damage step. That's pretty cool, so you could do that as well. Yeah, so he does that, gets in the piercing damage, and then Isolde just trying to attack over the Armageddonite with this Generation Shift coming down. And that is going to turn Armageddonite into another Armageddonite in hand. And then the attack goes through directly then, so putting Duncan onto 5-3 currently. Going up into a Phoenix in order to get rid of the Fog Blade. He's not going to bother just playing it on there. And then banishing Cloak to get the add, I believe. Oh, no, that gets banished anyway because it was summoned off the effect. So he's using the Isolde effect now. And brings out the Silent Boots. And then he can banish the Ragged Gloves to go through the Cloak to get the second Silent Boots. And that's going to let him go into a Link 4, so Firewall. Adding back the Blade. Are we going to see the Mermaid play come out? Yeah, so he goes into Mermaid. This can then bring out the Ibli, and he gets the Firewall effect off Getsuga. So just like we saw before, bringing out the Ibli with a Getsuga, pretty huge. He's got the Soul Charge as well in his hand now. So let's see what he does with this. I don't know if he's going to play this. He's just going to reveal it, because he can make such a big board, and he's going to take that game. So Duncan wasn't able to share his second list with us this week. He's just not able to get access to Dueling Book when I requested it. However, he had a couple of comments on it. Firstly, he said it's not particularly good. As you saw, it takes a little while to get set up so it can actually compete with Jacob's list in that game. He said in order for it to actually show off how good it can be, the game has to go on a bit longer because he has to be able to use the Burning Abyss stuff to set up the Infernity plays. Like you send Stygian and or Archfiend with Rhino, and then you use Skarm to search the Necro. So it does take a few turns in order to set up, but you can set up some pretty cool stuff with it if you get those few turns. It just takes a little while to get to that point. Get your vote down into the comments and help our contestants win that all-important prize. Thanks so much to everyone who took part in this week's episode. As always, there were some incredible moments and phenomenal deck lists sent in to us. Thank you all for watching this series and helping the community to grow. We've got some amazing themes coming up in the next few episodes, so be sure to hang around, subscribe to the channel, and keep following along with Build-a-Kek.